Wait, no, I want to go back up the stairs.
I do love the ambient thunder. I mean, I've lived on...
Yeah, I like that about that.
I've lived in rural areas, and I love that feel of a storm approaching, and this game captured it pretty well with the slow overcast and the distant rumbling of thunder.
Just there's something about the coloring of the air, or the coloring of the sky here, not just that it's dark. They didn't just take the lighting that we had before and put dark clouds overhead. They kind of changed the whole lighting of the scene. Whatever it is that artists do to make it feel this way, it worked. You can tell it's stormy even when you can't see the sky.
You have to trust me on this one, Lee. Why do we have to trust her on this one?
Darling, that it's slow cooking in the oven. Should be ready.
This is where, I mean, they're starting to lift the curtain. It's thundering, it's ominous.
Yeah.
She's starting to say things that don't really make sense.
Just don't know when to quit. But my boys, they can
She won't
hold
let you
their
in to
own.
see Mars.
Which made some semblance of sense back when he was freshly injured, but now it's
Yeah.
like, okay, he's bandaged, why can't I go see him?
Have them in our hair by placating them. So that's what we do.
Think I'll go have a look around.
Kinda peaceful out here, ain't it? Enjoy it while you can. You'll probably start hearing those monsters frying against the fence before too long.
Again, foreshadowing!
Yeah, this whole episode is pretty ripe with very subtle clues about what's going on, and if you happen to notice those clues in a certain way, you'll probably figure it out really quickly.
You really like that gun.
What's not to like?
You really like that gun.
What's not
If you
to
ever need to
like?
say that to a person.
243 will keep you warmer at night than any lady I ever knew.
You got a pretty mouth.
How do you run this place? with
Boar.
just
The
one cow?
technical term is
Used to
boar.
have more. They get hungry too. Or sick. Got your doctor friend here now, though.
You guys must trade for a lot of fuel to keep the generators running, right?
People get hungry, and a few loaves of bread fetch a high price. Y'all are luckier on this side of the deal now.
So there's definitely an interesting thing here. So most of you guys are probably like guessing sort of what's gonna happen because you're genre savvy like that.
Used to get these
But there was a question here that I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be
I'm
asking.
gonna go wait for
Is it's
supper.
intimated that there's going to be
It'll be
meat
a
at this
good one.
meal. And the question is, where are you getting it if you've only got one cow? And I didn't know if that was just something we weren't supposed to ask because, you know, sometimes games like this just kind of ignore the logistics of where food comes from.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're not sure if this is just the writers saying, well, it's a farm, so they just have food. And they'll have, like, a loaf of store-bought bread and butter and meat, because that's what it's like when you have food. Or if this
Now,
is
to be
supposed
fair,
to
if
be
they
a
had
clue.
large stocks of, like, canned meat or whatever, they could still do meat at dinner.
Oh yeah, that's a
Right.
fanciful
What happened at the
feast.
camp?
Just can upon
Finding
cam
more
of
those guys that hurt
spam.
Mark?
Well, they do an intentional thing here where pretty much all of the food discussed up to this point has been non-meat. It's been the rolls they hand you as a
Biscuits,
peace
yeah.
offering, biscuits, or the
Yeah.
bread.
About when I came back from the camp.
I mean,
He's losing it, Lee.
was it Dan,
He
the
comes
guy we
over
were
and
just
starts
talking to,
talking about
specifically
searching the
mentioned
barn,
trading
that
bread
these people
for
are hiding
safety.
something.
But you told him
Yeah,
to mind his own
up until
goddamn
now
business.
they have followed
We are
the
guests
proper
here. We don't need
rules.
to be overstaying our
So
welcome more than we
it
already
makes
are.
sense to
The way I
like think
see
of
it,
this
we just need
as,
to
oh,
skip the
maybe
dinner
this
and get our
is
food to go. But
a
I'm
hint
starting
that
to think
not
your
all
friend
is
over
well.
there has another agenda.
Did you get the feeling something's going on here?
What makes you say that? What exactly happened at the camp?
It's nothing. Don't worry about it. Paranoia just getting to me a little bit.
I know what you mean. These backwoods people always give me the creeps. If you ask me, we should just get our dinner and leave.
It is interesting that
We don't want to be rude.
I'm gonna
This
go check
game
things out.
Just don't get too nosy.
kind of
These kinds of people
assigns
are usually pretty protective of their
various reasonable bits of viewpoints to the various conflicted characters, like Kenny and Lily. Like, Lily doesn't want to stay because she feels like, you know, it's not safe here, which is obviously a feeling that the player probably has by this point. But then Kenny also wants to kind of find out more about what's going on here, because he thinks there's something weird going on, which is also kind of probably something that the player would be thinking about right now. So you don't get the feeling like, oh, one of these people is just acting totally stupid.
Right.
It's okay, Clementine. You can pet her.
Although a dairy with one cow is highly suspicious. That's really weird. We actually get our milk from a dairy, and let me tell you, they have a lot more than just one cow.
We'll see, Clementine.
Yeah, I mean, it mentions like most of them died of like sickness or whatever.
They got zombified.
Yeah, but don't lick it. It's gross.
Oh man, it was like hell. They were just running all over the place, murdering people with halberds.
That's my
Luckily,
favorite line
some adventurers
in the
showed
episode,
up.
by the way.
What is
when you ask Clementine if she licked the salt lick, and she says, "I don't know." That is such a perfect capture of the way children will respond to things like that. Where it's obvious that she did lick it, but she's too embarrassed and doesn't want to admit it and doesn't know if she
How do you
should.
like that cow, Clem?
So that moment right there where Clementine says, "Like duty." So if in
That
like
would've
last
been
episode,
where-
when you're if in last episode you were in the barn and you said like it smells like shit, that's where Clementine will say, "Like shit, right, Lee?" And then everyone looks at you like you just tattooed a swastika on her arm.
Did you see any strangers around?
I totally forgot they set up the salt lick though for later.
It's probably nothing. Just let me know if you ever see anything like that.
Okay, I will. Hey, Lee, do you think you'll
Look at the lighting in this scene, how it's bright in the background, and then the two principal characters are kind of silhouetted in the foreground.
I haven't thought about having kids in a long time.
Well,
Ooh, this is an unexpectedly tender moment.
You're welcome, Clem.
Do you want to
In
pet
the middle
the
of
cow?
the
And we
scene.
can see
but you
Katja
go,
working on the cow between them. Of course, it broke away from that now, but that first shot where it just
Hey
was
there,
the two
Andy.
of them in silhouette was just really neat. And you really don't see that other than
now we
in
got Doc on the
pre-made cutscenes where you have no control and you might as well put the controller down and go
When do you
away.
think we might?
I'd love to know how they did the animation in this game, because it doesn't look detailed enough to really necessarily be mocapped, or if it is, it's mocapped at a very, very basic arms and legs sort of level.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how they did all these scenes, because there's a lot of custom animation for all these, like, pushing people on swings and falling down, and...
Yes.
Yeah, it looks
might be
very...
keyframed. It could be keyframed. I mean, I've done keyframe animation, and this stuff is doable. It would be time-consuming, but it's doable.
Yeah, it looks very smooth for mocap. Like, mocap tends to have a bit of like weird jitteriness where
Well, when you switch between animation...
Yeah.
I mean, you can smooth
And
that
the
with tweening.
forbidden door.
Yeah, you can look at all these stalls and there's like not. I don't think there's anything in. any of
There's
them that
there's
really
one that
works.
has something in it, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of a pain in the ass. It's such a long,
door.
it's such a long animation.
They got boxes of stuff. Something metal.
They're hiding
sharp.
something behind this
Don't
door.
get paranoid.
It's my
I
job
think
to
it's
be
the
paranoid, Lee.
lawnmower.
I got my whole family on this farm right now. How about you? What about Clem?
I'll protect her no matter what.
Here's another
I know you
great
will.
conversation
The guy
between
with
these
Katya,
two.
what's his name?
Mm-hmm.
Locked it up real tight.
Racism.
Came in.
Oh yeah, that's coming up. It's my favorite line from Larry.
Yes.
Not Larry,
Gotta
Kenny.
know for sure. So go find a hammer or something, and I'll have this thing off in a second. You back me up. And
It's interesting at the top of this episode, you get the opportunity to call Larry racist when he hasn't done anything overtly racist. But then Kenny, who's supposedly your buddy, actually is kind of racist
What
to
you
you.
have in mind?
Let me have a look at what we're dealing with first.
Now, I'm not sure if this is actually optional or if you have to do this,
Here
but
it
it
is.
felt optional, and that made it
would you say
much
that?
scarier.
Well,
You know how to pick a lock, right? Because you're urban.
You are not saying what I think you're saying.
Jesus, man, I'm from Florida. Crazy shit just comes out of my mouth sometimes. Sorry.
I've lived in Florida, I can vouch for that.
Yeah, it did ring. It rang totally true. I've known guys who would think like that and would say something like that and then would be embarrassed just like that. That just really worked. That's
hang around
right.
and keep an eye on that guy with the cow. Andy. Shit, I thought that was Danny.
And wow, and
I
would
like
be
how he
wearing a
doesn't even
baseball
remember their
cap.
names.
And would be wearing a baseball cap just like that when he said it.
What's behind this door?
I'd like to point out that this game, in that little exchange, highlighted somewhat subtle racial relations in a quiet, subtle way, in ways that the entire Mass Effect trilogy really failed to do with interspecies relations, which should have been far more stark.
Yeah.
No one ever, like, assumed a Krogan was a giant jerk, even though he was really a nice guy. I mean, kind of, but not in the subtle way that was presented.
Right. You didn't get the feeling that there was always this tension and confusion and misunderstanding between species. Oh, what, you assume that just because I'm a sorry that we're all table dancers? Is that what you think we do?
It's a feeding trough.
I'm gonna respond with a table dance.
Has it ever occurred to you that you think we're all table dancers because that's the only time you see us?
I'm just table dancing to put myself through prostitute school.
Would
All
buy
right, so
as
now we have to go
DLC.
outside.
I think so. I don't remember exactly where the...
Yes, you have to go outside to get the screwdriver, because the screwdriver is in the tool shed, toolbox. And you have to also get the toolbox so you can screw up the power generator so that you can distract Andy away from...
How does a woman like
Okay,
yourself run
this
whole place?
did not really work for me that well. What we've got to do here... Now, we had an interesting conversation during the last block of episodes about whether or not an electric fence would actually hold the zombies back. And it was a really interesting conversation.
See, the way you were starting that out, I thought you were going to complain about Larry talking up the mom.
No.
Me too.
Back off, Larry, she's mine!
No, but we had this interesting conversation, and, you know, some people think it's preposterous, some people think it's perfectly plausible. No matter which way you think about an electric fence and whether or not it would keep the zombies out, in this world, it clearly is a working solution. And in order to solve this puzzle, you have to sabotage that fence in order to look behind the door and make sure this place is safe. So you have to make this place unsafe in order to check and make sure that it's not unsafe. And that was just a little too dumb for me.
You'll catch a glimpse of humanity every now and then.
So, what are y'all keeping the barn back there? Besides,
Don't judge, honey. This world is bringing out the worst in people, especially black people.
It's nothing interesting, I can promise you that much. Just some odds and ends. Takes a
There's
lot
someone
of
else in this
effort,
game
you
who's
know.
racist. It's not her. It's not her. I can't remember who.
Don't wander too far. Dinner will be ready before you know it.
It's also pretty. It's
I don't know
also
who you're
kind of a
talking about
subtle
either.
touch. Yeah. Yeah, no, she's not the racist one. She's just nice and genial.
Whoa.
I apologize. She doesn't do anything wrong in this game.
She's very nice and... What?
You
Yeah,
have to-
I
you
know,
have to
but I
script
don't
the
remember why I have to script the generator.
To get Andy out of the barn, or not Andy, whatever his name is.
Isn't he in the barn? Or isn't he
Yeah, you have to get him
of the
out.
barn?
Yeah, the dude's... Yeah, he's in the barn. You need to get him out of the barn by putting a sapper on his generator. And then you stab him in the back, and you steal the intelligence, Josh. That's how it works.
I never get out of the base as a spy with the intel, though.
No, don't turn it off.
To be fair...
Cut the... Oh, that shot's... I get it.
I gotta steal the
I
belt.
just remembered.
It's all too tight for my bare hands.
You're gonna cut it.
There.
I mean,
Wouldn't it suck if you did this and then it turned out that was the only belt they had?
You open the barn door, and it's just like they'd set up a surprise birthday party for their mom.
Damn it, dog. Ah, son of a... Fuck.
I like that said frack in the closed captions.
Subtitles.
Yeah.
That word. Sucks about that, Andy. I'm gonna keep walking here. I'm just gonna go to the barn. Don't worry about it.
Yep, see ya. You don't need help with that.
Hope that old fence thing works out for you. Goodbye.
Am I the only one that gets freaked out by that animation of him pulling open the door and going, "Oh, nothing"?
Yeah, it's like,
utterly
what the
surprised at nothing, and then he goes in. And then I was expecting, oh, this is obviously a recycled animation. At some point in this episode, there's going to be a moment where he pulls it open and there'll be a zombie or somebody holding a gun in his face.
Come on.
And so I was waiting the whole time using this metagame game developer knowledge of asset recycling to assume that that would happen.
Okay, this is a real source of tension. Not only do I feel like at this point, not only do I feel like it's my choice to open this door and that like I'm risking everything when, you know, it could just be totally harmless, but I'm doing it after the dinner bell's rung and I'm expected.
Yes.
Kenny's excuse is Kenny goes back in there and his excuse is, Lee was out there doing some black guy stuff. But yeah, I agree with Karen. This does create a nice amount of tension.
So the big reveal here is that they're cannibals. Now, what I was expecting was something a lot less dangerous, like that the St. John's dad had been zombified and was being kept here for.
Why was there so much blood in there?
Look,
sentimental reasons.
Here, but Danny and I still got to keep everyone fed. When we catch something in the woods,
which
we skin it and dress
is
it
exactly the plot of the Herschel's Farm bit of the comic books and the TV series. So I knew that wasn't going to happen. I figured it out very quickly because I remembered the bear trap out in the middle of the woods, the very beginning of this chapter. Made no sense. It's got the release latch taken off. You know, no reason to do that if you're hunting game with it, or zombies for that matter. It's clearly set for some other reason. Why is it there? I get here, I start to see these signs, I'm like, oh, right, okay, these guys just eat people.
Now don't you worry about him. I've already brought some food up. You just let him rest.
Mind if I wash my hands first?
This is where the episode, I think, fell apart for me, where it's like, they know you know something, and you're like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. That's cool, right? And they're like, yeah, just do that. Don't go into the death kitchen.
Don't go upstairs. Why shouldn't I go upstairs exactly? Oh, that's where we slaughtered my. Ow!
Wait, no.
You got me.
I gotta click on random stuff.
And you're gone for a long time, too.
Gauze pads. I could use a shave.
Can you just, like, use the bathroom and go back?
Apparently no. You can't use the bathroom, so...
This must be Terry.
Take the shaving cream, come back, spray it on everyone's food.
That said, even though I knew exactly what I was gonna find up here, this was kind of tense, especially when you step on the thing and it creaks and you wonder if anyone saw you or heard you. And I still remember that. Like, now that the whole game is said and done and I've played through it all, I still remember that moment as being really tense.
And yeah, again, I didn't try to go back. I wasn't sure if I could. I didn't know if I was still just being paranoid, because, you know, maybe they were slaughtering a deer. So again, it felt like I was taking a risk. Like I was pushing my luck. Like maybe I'd find nothing and I'd be alienating these people. And then I saw the blood.
Cookbooks. Nothing out of the ordinary here.
Watch any paladin.